This conference will now be recorded.
Take your time. Take your time. Okay, good.
It's extensive.
You see it?
Yes. I mean, it's a nice little.
Okay. I'm just gonna start really quick. I know, but I'm gonna find out. I'm just gonna do. Hi, everybody. Hello. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the Village Town Hall. We're gonna be going over some important information about the villas. So I am gonna pass it over to our Villa Committee in just a few moments. Just a few things that I'd like to go over really quick. We do have a PowerPoint presentation happening, so we do have a lot of people calling into this meeting currently. Like in our meeting, because we are showing a PowerPoint presentation, we do not have the ability to see the chat right now. So if you do have a question during the presentation, we ask that you just please type your question in the chat, and then we will address it once the presentation is wrapped up. Additionally, we want to see how many villas are.
Stephanie?
I'm sorry,
Marilyn's gonna help by monitoring the chat.
Okay, so Marilyn and Alan are both on their computers. They can see the chat, so if they do come up, we can answer them. But if it's not addressed during the meeting, we will try to address it afterward. Also, we want to see how many villas are actually represented at this meeting. So I am going to pass around a notebook here. If you could just write your address, just one per home. If you're both here, we don't need you to both sign it. We just need to know how many homes are actually represented. Even if you are not, do we have any non-villa owners in here? So even if you're not a villa owner, please write your name on this list as well. We just want to see how many homes are represented at this meeting. Additionally, for those who are online, if you could write your address in the chat for us, just so we can also make a note. We'll add them all together at the end to see how many homes are represented. So if you're online, please write your address in the chat. And for you folks, let's start here. I do need this pen back. This is my pen. Please.
My lucky pen.
My lucky pen. But thank you for coming. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Stephanie Taylor. I'm the one who sends out all the community e-blasts and emails. If you ever have an issue or just want to say hi, ask me to email. But I've been working closely with our Villa subcommittee, as well as Alan Westerman, one of our board members, and Marilyn McNevitz, another one of our board members. She's online today. We've been working hand in hand with the Villa subcommittee to try and get this process sorted out. As you know, there have been issues with the roof. We want to go over currently what Amendment 5 is all about. That does affect how the roofs are taken care of. So today the Villa Committee is going to talk about what's currently in Amendment 5 and then what the options would be to possibly change it to. We do need to remember that an amendment change does require a community vote. So regardless of, say all the villa owners want to change the amendment, it does require a community vote to happen. So
What's the purpose of this meeting then?
this meeting is intended to give the villa owners information on what the different options would be, and if the majority of the villa owners want to change, then we will solicit that change within the rest of the community.
So a big board decides that, like that to villas, we're wasting our time here.
No, this
Well,
is not.
let's give the committee an opportunity to present before we jump to conclusions, please.
Yeah, so the reason why we're here is because the board of directors does not have the ability to change this amendment. It requires a community vote. That's why we're here, to inform all of the villa owners what the options are, and if the majority of the villa owners want to change, then we need to go out to the rest of the community and ask them to vote for this. So board directors have nothing to do with this. Okay, with that, I'm going to pass you on over to Karen. She is
Thank
the
you.
chair of our villas subcommittee.
Hi.
Big round of applause for Karen. Take it away, Karen.
Thank you very much. We are here to discuss the potential changes to Amendment 5. Okay, and I want to thank you all for coming. I would like to introduce the members of the Village Subcommittee. I'm Karen Phillips, I'm the chair. Thelma Rigby, Kathy Owens,
Gabriel.
Gabriel De Donato, and William Jones, who was unable to make it tonight. So I would like to read to you the objective of this town hall, okay? The objective of the town hall includes a review of the options for potential changes to Amendment 5.
Can you see the person talking?
No, you should only be able to see the actual presentation, the PowerPoint presentation. And we please ask if you have called in, please mute yourself so we don't get any feedback.
Okay, so review of the options for potential changes to Amendment 5, discussion of the pros and cons for each option, discuss how the residents can provide input to the change, review of pending items, and an overview of next steps. Okay? So I just want to let you all know that there were 11 roofs that needed to be repaired that roughly came out to $600 a villa homeowner, right? So when Southern Roofing repaired the 11 villa roofs, they said the leaks were due to builder's defect, and as a result, this information was included in the 558 report that was sent to Lennar. Okay, so now I'd like to read the review of Amendment 5 options, okay? Option number 1, you can leave Amendment 5 as is, and the villa homeowners share equally in the cost of roof repairs and maintenance, roof replacement, painting, and termite protection, which are all items covered in Amendment 5, with the amount determined by the board and shared equally among all the. Okay, option number 2, you can leave Amendment 5 as is and modify the wording where individual villa homeowners are responsible for the cost of their own roof repairs. The HOA will manage the roof repairs and billing to individual villa owners. Repair fund reserve will be established to provide funding for the repairs until billed and collected from the impacted villa owners. The cost of the roof replacement, painting, and termite bond remain the same, shared between the 92 villa homeowners. Option number 3, to change Amendment 5 to remove the word roof repairs altogether. The homeowners are responsible for all repairs. The HOA is not
Just watch and see
responsible
what
for
you
managing.
get.
Can we mute on the phone? We're hearing you talking.
Please mute yourselves, we can hear you.
This is important. The HOA on option number 3 is not responsible for managing, administering any roof repairs. The HOA keeps the responsibility for roof replacement, villa's exterior painting, and the termite bond. The only thing I don't know is if we do that number 3, how that would affect the 558 report. If they find that, yeah. Okay, and option number 4 is to change Amendment 5 to remove all requirements for roof repair, replacement, and painting. Only keeping termite protection as part of the annual HOA villa expense. All roof maintenance and repairs, roof replacement, and painting are the responsibility of each villa homeowner.
No,
Karen,
that's a choice.
All right, can the person on the phone, Lou and G, mute? Thank you. Can we just go back 2 slides, Stephanie?
Yes.
I just want to make sure, because I'm not sure everybody knows what Amendment 5 actually is or does. So we can just pause there for 2 minutes and then we'll come back to the options.
Thank you.
Sure. So first, if anybody knows anybody in the community, roof leaks are not unique to the villas, right? I think probably at least a third of the people throughout the community have experienced one roof leak. I think the most I've heard of is eight times in a single roof. What is unique is how it's paid for and how it's repaired and who owns that responsibility. So just as background, Amendment 5, so you all know there's a declaration, there's governing laws, bylaws, et cetera, that Lennar put in place to sort of set out the rules, responsibilities, regulations of the community. Amendment 5, which they put in place, and there's obviously, I think there's, Neil, up to 8 amendments that we have for the community overall, and there's supplements, there's a whole bunch of different legal documents. If you go out onto the Osceola legal website, you can see all the different changes they made. Some are very minor, they just added new properties as they built out K-Track and North Track, et cetera. But Amendment 5, they really put in the day before they turned over to the owner-run board. Again, we have no idea necessarily exactly why they did that, but they thought it was cleaning up something that needed to be cleaned up. But what it effectively did was for the 92 villa units, it created what's called a service area. So kind of like a separate sub part of the community. And what it really did was it basically took the responsibility of roof repairs and maintenance, roof replacement, exterior painting, and termite, and placed that on the HOA. So it kind of took that away from the villa owners and said, as an HOA, the association has to manage these 4 components. Different from a single family house where I'm responsible for my roof maintenance, I'm responsible for my roof replacement, I'm responsible for exterior painting, and I can choose to get a termite bond and have home team come and do their little termite checks with the things in the ground. So that was basically, it took those responsibilities, put the burden on the association for managing roof repairs, roof replacement, exterior painting, and termite. Then what it also did was it said, okay, now how is that going to get paid for? And the way it's going to get paid for is effectively for roof repairs, divide by 92. So unlike an individual homeowner, my roof leaks, my responsibility. Maybe I can get insurance to cover it if a tree fell on my roof, but ultimately my responsibility. What it did here with the service area of the villas is basically said, a roof leaks, it's now going to be paid for by the collective of that service area, basically by all 92 unit owners. So if Karen has a roof leak and it costs, I'll just use $9,200 because I can probably do that math pretty easily. That doesn't get paid $9,200 out of Karen's pocket. It gets $9,200 divided by the 92, or basically $100 each villa owner. And that is for repairs and maintenance, right? Separate, if a tree falls on the house and basically, knocks the roof in, that's a different issue, and that becomes a sort of a casualty event or a damage event, then that goes down an insurance path. So I think of it as kind of like a fork in the road. Repairs and maintenance, roof defect, whatever, goes down the association, owning it and managing it and dividing by 92. If it's a damaged event, bang, it goes back to the owner and their responsibility, their insurance company, and goes through all that. Then there's some controls that if the owner don't repair your roof timely after a damage event, the association can take control and then special assess that unit. So that's kind of what it practically means, is basically divide by 92 for repairs, and then the replacement aspect and the exterior painting. Generally, the way you do that is no different than what we've done for the plaza or common asset. Is there's a reserve fund set up, right? So every month you guys pay in $54 to a reserve fund, so that in 7 years, when the painting needs to be done, there's funds there to go out and, based on our engineering study, to paint all the villas right now exterior, it was about $170,000 is what they estimated. To do a full roof replacement is about $2.4 million if it was done today in 2023. That's obviously going to continue to grow by inflation, as we all know. So 7 years from now, that 170 needs to be 230 or whatever that is. So the reserve fund is in theory designed to get to a point where you've either entirely funded, the painting every 7 years, which is the estimate of how long paint lasts in Florida, or at least the appearance of it lasts. And then the roof replacement is generally like a 30-year life, and we can talk more about that down the road. But, again, the reserves are to establish some level of money that's in a central pot so that when that roof replacement comes due, you're not all special assessed $40,000, $50,000 to the roof. There's a fund to pay for, hopefully half of that or more than half of that. So that's,
Go ahead.
like I say, that's kind of the back. Let's go to the next slide so I make sure I didn't miss anything on the. Yeah, so I think that is, I guess the only thing is, again, we don't know why Lennar put this in place, but we can sort of speculate a little bit. If you think about, if Karen has a roof leak, but it goes into Kathy's villa, who deals with that? Does Kathy have to, argue and debate with Karen to go, hey, your roof is causing water in my kitchen? And Karen says, well, not my problem. I have no water in my kitchen, so why do I care? So I think it could have been put in place to sort of manage across multiple villa owners so that there's not a conflict. Again, I think because the roofs are shared and if you think about a replacement in the future or even painting stuff, you can't like just necessarily replace one villa roof without impacting the one next to it. And if you have new tiles and old tiles, is that going to look good? And same thing if you paint and you try to stop at a straight line between, two villas, is that going to look, good as well? So I think I can speculate that Lennar was trying to figure out like, how do we manage this across shared roofs, shared walls, et cetera. So that's my speculation, and I think kind of the thought process as to why they might have put it in place. The fact they did it at the 12th hour, a little disconcerting, and the fact that they came up with the payment methodology and took some of the ownership out of the villa owners. We can debate whether that was good or not good, or what they sort of promised. And then obviously termite, kind of the same thing, because again, if Karen chooses not to pay, I think my termite initially cost like $800, and that's like $400 every year. If she chose not to do that, but the termites then got into Kathy's house, who's responsible, right? Kathy, So I think that was kind of another thing that they looked across and said, because there's shared walls, shared infrastructure, we need to manage that centrally so that one owner doesn't make one decision that can impact another owner. So that's kind of the background, and you can read through this. We'll publish the slides out online. But you can sort of see if I've kind of missed anything. But that's kind of the history of Amendment 5 from our perspective.
Okay.
Great. 70, you want to say something?
Well, I was going to say, so based on what Alan has said, that is why the current roof repairs that were done was paid out of the reserve, because
Right now.
not a cash, a tree didn't fall on the roofs causing the damage. It was found to be construction defect when we had the initial inspection done from all of these leaks. The roof contractor came back to us and said, it looks like this roof had damages and leaks prior to the hurricane happening. It's just that the hurricane kind of agitated it. So that's when we got the attorney involved, and it's now part of the 558 letter. But that's why the association took care of it rather than the homeowners going through insurance and covering it themselves.
Right. And the other thing I will add, because I just reread some of my bullet points, is again, as a homeowner, I am probably more motivated to get my roof fixed quickly, timely, et cetera. So one of the challenges by inserting the HOA as a middle person is that, are we as motivated to get it fixed as quickly? We have to coordinate. So like I can, talk to a roofer and he's like, I can be there tomorrow at 2. Is that good for you? I could be like, yes. Now it has to go, Stephanie, hey, I can be there tomorrow at 2. Stephanie calls Karen, it's 2 tomorrow. No, 2 tomorrow is not good, but Friday, so it becomes a back and forth to try to get that, sort of arranged. So again, it may not be the most efficient process. And again, that's part of what you have to think about and decide is, do you want to own the process and manage the process of your individual roofs, or do you like it the way it is? Do you want to, own that cost of that, or do you like sharing it? So those are kind of what are laid out in the various options. And it's everything from just touching on the roof repair aspect, because that's, front and center. And when we continue, I think there's another leak that came up in the last day or two where there's literally a hole where water's leaking through. So that's the kind of decisions when Karen started to lay out option 5, we'll put the slide back up that.
We have to clarify if everyone knows what the 584 is.
Oh, the 558. Okay, so Karen touched on this, but so as we obviously transitioned from the developer, Lennar, and we took it over, we did an engineering study to look at, one, did Lennar build what they promised? So if the specs for this building said, 3 pools and they only put 2 pools in, that's one example of where we can go back to Lennar and say, here's what was approved, here's what the county approved, but you failed to deliver on that. Similarly, if there's defects, if there's sidewalks that are dangerous, if there's roofs that are problematic, either at the plaza or any of the common assets, what we did do is, because the villa had these roof leaks, we added those to effectively, you think of the 558 as sort of a notification to Lennar of, here's the things we think that you either fell short of or we're not done up to standards or code, and you need to repair or pay for the repair. So, and if you listen to the most recent board meeting, we're engaging a defect attorney to basically help us chase that, right? Because Lennar, we filed it, not surprisingly, Lennar came back and said, we don't agree with any of it. And oh, by the way, for the accounting stuff where you say you owe money, we want you basically to give us every possible transaction from the inception of the association back in 2012 or 2013, even though Lennar owned all those records up until 2 years ago, roughly.
And to a certain extent, then putting in Amendment 5 has really allowed us to include the Villa roofs in that 558 notice.
Nice.
Whereas, if I have a problem with my roof, like Alan said, I can't include that in the construction defects notice. I have to go directly to Lennar and sue them directly. But because they included Amendment 5, they put the responsibility onto the association. That's why we've been able to include it in the 558. So from that perspective, it's a benefit, but that's one of the advantages.
Yep, and just two other comments at the, not the most recent board, but the board meeting earlier this month. An individual has basically said they're going to sue Lennar directly, and there's also a class action suit in the community for single family homeowners that, I don't know how many are in that, I think it's 20, 30-ish, that are, last I heard, we're in the arbitration phase with Lennar, and Champions Club has the same defect attorney, and they're suing, or I guess probably arbitration first for, I think it's both the roofs and the stucco, because if you've ever driven by the Champions Club or you see the golf course, they've got cracks, it's people have plastic up on the exterior. So these are not uncommon things that we're finding throughout the community.
I would just say that this could take a while.
Yes.
This is not a quick process, the 558 going through our attorneys. We have now hired a construction defect attorney.
Nice.
That agreement is in place, so that's just been done this last weekend. But typically these things can take 2 to 3 years for us to come to fruition and settlement. So.
But if there is any money that's specifically related to the villa roofing, that would go into the villa reserve fund, basically. So you get reimbursed, up to some level of. Do you have a question? Yes.
At the beginning of the year, we've been going with this roof repair and painting like there is no tomorrow. Every meeting that I come, we come back again to the same subject. At the beginning of the year, there was an increase in the reserve for the roof and the painting and so on and so forth.
Yep.
What happened to that money? If something happens to the painting, where is that money coming from? Where is it going?
So basically, $54 at 92 units is roughly $5,000 a month. So that goes into a separate account. So it's literally called Villa's Reserve Fund. So a separate bank account with US Bank at $5,000 a month. So through June, we'll get to about $30,000, right? So then as things come up, so if we needed to, and again, the villas are, I think, max 2.5 years old. Maybe there's a 3-year-old villa out there. So in theory, full exterior painting shouldn't be done for another 3 or 4 years, right? And the roof replacement shouldn't be needed for another 27 years.
27 years, I'll be dead.
Alan, in addition to that, Lennar deficit funded the HOA, so there was no reserve fund left by them when they turned over.
And it's not required to be, right? The only place that reserves are required to be set up is for condominium units.
So let's assume that nothing happens in the next 5 years.
Yep.
What happened to them? And the next 5 years or 7 years, we need to pay all the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Who is going to pay for that? From the reserve?
From the reserve, yeah. No, the reserves. So basically, you build it up, and then let's just assume the 170 for painting is roughly accurate. So, perfect.
If there's a shortfall, it will be divided, at the moment, it will be divided by 92 and a special assessment sent out.
Right. So as an example, just say crazy somebody came in and said, all the roofs are defective and need to be full replaced, that would be $2.4 million. And because the reserves are only 30,000, then it would be that divided by 92. I mean, that's not going to happen, but just as an example, if there's a shortfall.
That's a good example.
Question in the back about painting.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I'm sure everybody here has owned different condos and villas throughout Florida and different states. I've never had one that excluded exterior painting.
So again, the association is responsible for the exterior painting.
But how come that wasn't like built into the fees? Like, I'm not sure what all the fees are. We pay one for Gates and we pay one for Oasis.
Correct.
And we pay another one that includes $75 for food here.
Yep.
Plus other stuff.
Yes. Okay, so we can walk you through that separately, but basically the other stuff is all the common amenities. So golf course, plaza, swimming pool, north pools here, et cetera. And then for the villas specifically, it's a reserve fund, $54, which covers it covers 3 of the 4 because so termite is built into the regular operating budget. So of your dues, your regular dues, I think it's $10,000 or $12,000 a year is for termite. So that's just, $2 or $3 a month or whatever it is. But the 3 other main things, the roof replacement, the roof repairs, and the exterior painting, that's what goes into a reserve fund that gets built up over time. That's the $54.
And you're paying that in your regular monthly
Yes.
assessment.
I guess my question is, of the $400 that we're paying, can include money for paint that we had to pay an extra?
It does, it does.
We had
You cannot amount
Right.
the amount of money that you have to spend at 2-3 years time. It's difficult to assess that amount precisely. It's like we changed from, I don't know, Sherwin Williams to Bears. That's a different price on the painting. That you cannot precisely set an amount for that one. So it's basically we're going to make as a reserve, and then any deficit is going to be billed to us. That's the way that it's done.
Right, but we can walk you through separately or another time, the budget,
Yeah.
what's in there.
I guess in my mind, listen, if it's close to $500 a month for the HOA fees, that should include everything, including the roofs, the paint and everything. So there's probably extra money's coming out of this one, maybe to pay for the golf course. That's why maybe there's a shortfall. In other words, if I was in Harbor Pines, right, over in Bradenton, and it was $450 for HOAs.
Yep.
They did the roofs, they repainted everything, that was it. So in this case, we're paying X amount of dollars for something, but it doesn't include painting and the roofs. My question is, why did they exclude that? That should have been right at the beginning.
Well, so again, when Lennar was in charge, right, their motivation is to, the question is why wasn't sort of painting and roof repairs, replacement built into the monthly assessments from day one, from 2018 or 2019 when the first villa was built or any of the homes. And the reason really basically is Lennar was motivated to sell homes. So they're motivated to keep your HOA as low as possible because that's obviously the selling point, right? Hey, come move in here. You got golf, you got tennis, you got pickleball, you got pools. And, they're also deficit funding. So money's coming out of their pocket while they're building all these things, right? So basically, and this is not uncommon, you're going to see this in any community pre and post turnover, that, up to while the developer is controlling it, they're trying to keep expenses as low as possible, right? So they're not going to add in reserves or any of those kind of things unless they're required to by law.
That's very strange because I come from a community that Lennar built in Bradenton.
Yep.
Called Riverside Golf and Country Club. Brand new. Never heard about roof repair, paintings. I mean, we're making a better case out of this.
Is it turned over or is it still under, when did it turn over?
3 years ago before I came.
And
It's just single family homes.
right, but in any country club or things like that, but.
If they're just single family homes and they're not villas, because villas are joined.
This was a villa. I came from a villa to another villa.
Could have been a condo.
Was it a condo?
Could be.
association?
Could be different.
Was it a condo association?
We used to have the homeowners association just like in here, homes.
No, this
Right, it
is
depends on-
very,
Alan, you might want to take this offline and
Take
stick
that,
to
yep.
the agenda.
Yeah, good point.
Karen, back to you,
All right,
Karen.
so back to the options.
So I'd be interested to know what you all think of these options. Have you read them? Do you have any preference? Option
Karen,
one, two,
Karen, why don't you go through one by one? And on the next slide, you can go through each of them and kind of look at the pros and cons.
I had a quick question. My name is Kevin Valero. I'm at 1073 Quaker Ridge. I did talk to my insurance company, which is AAA, and they're insured by Progressive. And what he's telling me is that he's never come across this. Typically, the master association insures the roof. They are in charge of the roof. You pay to cover the roof. And I did check with him. As far as a tile roof, they will only cover it for 25 years. After that, it needs to be replaced. And also, how do we know where our roof begins and ends? There's no definitive point. So it's very hard to pay for something and cover something that you don't know what you own at this point. So I think it'd be easier if the roofs were off the table, if they were insured privately and we just paid an insurance policy on the roofs themselves. And then we just covered inside and had the HOA manage that.
Okay,
So really quick. So what I was starting to say earlier is that our community is very unique in that we have a set of units that share a roof, yet they're not condos. They're considered homeowners association. And there are very different rules and laws around both. And that's why we're in this predicament. Condo association, yes, the association all day, your assessment pays for it, and, scheduling, repairs, everything, it's done by the association. In homeowner association, I can tell you that First Service Residential doesn't manage any other association where villas are considered homeowners association, not condos. So it's a very unique situation that we're in, and that's why we're in this situation, because of how the documents are written, but because we're considered homeowners association, not condos. There's different rules.
and the other sort of nuance is the roof is for the association defined from the membrane up. So basically membrane, tiles, vents, but plywood, trusses are the owner's responsibility. And I think when we've spoken to insurance agents, they don't see that there's an insurable interest to the HOA, or they wouldn't write a policy to cover the roofs, which is why basically everybody gets their own individual insurance policy. And in theory, the association is supposed to be a named insured on that policy. So that's another little wrinkle to it. But if someone wants to, reach out to more insurance companies and see if they, once they understand the exact legal structure of how the villas are set up, if they're not condominiums, that the current documents, we only own from the membrane up, and they could find insurance for that, I think we would entertain or at least look at that and then try to understand how pricey is that and what is the deductible, right? Because again, that might be worse, even though in theory it shouldn't sound that way, but it could be a very expensive proposition, and then you still divide by 92, and you might end up with, a higher insurance premium than you've got today, and then you have to insure your interior as well. So yeah, so we've at least had these discussions, and our broker who we've dealt with says you cannot get insurance the way it's structured. So, but again, if takeaways.
Yeah, well, my concern would be, we're paying into this fund for the roof replacement, but if we keep using that fund to repair roofs, there's not going to be any money left there anyway. And how much is this thing going to keep going up just to keep everybody together?
And just to clarify, that's sort of an accommodation we made, which again, if the villa owners subcommittee want us to revisit that, but we were trying to avoid either a special assessment, right? So coming out and saying, we're not touching the reserve fund, but we're going to assess everybody $600 or whatever the final amount is to pay into a special assessment fund.
I don't even know how to do it.
Can you mute? Or the other option, the association could front that money until possibly the end of the year, and then we would build it into your 2024 assessment. So again, $600 or whatever the end amount is divided by 92, and that would be automatically what your assessment goes up even before we look at inflation, all the other aspects of, raising we're making an accommodation to take it out of the reserve fund. But again, depending on which option we pick, we need to replenish that reserve fund as well. So that's one of the challenges. Question in the back, yeah.
Yes, so you don't cover the walls or anything, you just go from the membrane. So if I go to my insurance company and I say, I want to insure my $300,000 condo, everything, do I still have to pay the $54 a month for everybody else's roofs? That would make sense.
Well, it's your roof too. So right now, everybody.
No, I want to get my own insurance, insure everything myself. I don't want to be part of.
Right, but right now, everybody has their own insurance that insures the entire unit. Roof? Absolutely, because we own no insurance for the roofs. The only thing we own is managing the process. We own no insurance for the roofs.
Okay, so we have to insure our whole place.
Correct.
Why did we pay the reserve?
Yeah.
For replacement.
So why do we pay reserve?
For replacement. See, they're not gonna pay for replacement in 25 years or 30 years, right? So in other words, basically, if you think of the association, we have to protect the look, the appearance, fiduciary responsibility, and go by the legal documents. So in 30 years, when those roofs have to be replaced, either because they're worn out or nobody can get insurance anymore, we're going to come in and let's say it costs $3.5 million. We're going to replace all those roofs, and there's either only one or two options. Either you special assess at that time and divide 3.5 million by 92, and it's probably 50 grand, or you build up a reserve so that when you get there, you either have it fully paid for, or you have half of it paid for, or 3/4 of it paid for. Right.
It's not guaranteed I'll be there.
Well, no, probably none of us.
Right.
Right.
You're going to be replacing roofs constantly every time a hurricane hits.
Well, that's what insurance is for.
Yeah, but
Because right
at
now,
what
the
point,
11 repairs that
I
happen.
think we should go through the options.
Insurance to cover my whole bill.
Right.
And I don't use the reserve fund, I'm paying it out of my own company because I have to pay $2,000 a year for insurance and another $600 on top of that to pay for the roof. And I kind of like double that.
So again, your insurance will never cover replacement, right? So in other words, I've got insurance on my, well, it may or may not. So like, I think the most recent, or many of the leaks, or the most recent one we just had, the insurance basically came out and said, this is not a damage event. This is
It's not an occurrence.
It's not an occurrence.
And I think that's what needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
In 25, 30 years, when these roofs are replaced because of maintenance, they're worn out. It's just like if you have a shingle roof. In so many years, your shingles wear out and you need to replace your roof. So this is what we're talking about. In 25 to 30 years, whatever reason, wear and tear, maintenance, the roofs will need to be replaced. We're not talking about occurrences where the wind comes or something falls on it.
Let homeowners on my villa pay for that roof. Because in 30 years, I am not gonna be here. And none of us are gonna be here.
Which is,
You can't buy insurance.
I know me as well.
The insurance company will make you replace your roof before they'll sell you insurance.
So again.
Replacement in 25 years, because that's an absolute.
Yes, and honestly.
And then repairs too.
Right. We've heard, and one of the things that, again, one of the options is for 2024 going forward, we'll set up a separate repair fund, right? 50,000 or something. Right, and that will be separate from reserves, and then we'll look at that every year to see like, all right, this year, did we pay anything out? We paid nothing, so maybe we'll discontinue that for the next year. Oh, we charged 50,000, we incurred 70,000, well, now we gotta, build that back up. So again, I agree, we should be separating repairs from replacement. But even, taking the villas, like even myself, like I've heard, some insurance companies may not go after 15 years, right? So my house is 70 years old, so I might have to repair my roof. And again, it's a tile roof, probably $30,000, $40,000. I don't know the current market price, but in theory, I should be setting money aside for that versus in 8 years. And I'm hoping, because when I bought here, I thought tiles were like a 50-year life. But apparently the tiles aren't so bad. It's everything underneath. The screws rust out, the membrane goes, all that because of the heat. And these roofs, I come from Northeast with shingles, where all the water is designed to be on top of the shingles and never, these roofs are designed for only 80% to run on top. The other 20% runs underneath on top of the membrane and out the little seep holes that are right? And again, that's what goes, is because the water gets under there and all the heat and the cracking of, because if you ever watch them put up, they put membrane and they just tar all the seams.
But when
And
you did our roof repair, I noticed OSB just exposed with nothing over it.
right, so again, that's part of the quote construction issue that we filed with the 558.
Like ice and water shield, where you could run that from the top right to the bottom.
Yep.
And you'll never have to worry about a leak. Those tile shingles are just for looks. That's how good that stuff is. They didn't put it on there.
Right, I mean, in theory, they put that, whatever that white membrane with the basically peel and stick, but if they miss part, it's kind of like when they wrap a house, if they miss some of the house wrap,
They didn't do any of it.
right. Oh, they didn't do any of the,
No, when they took it-
so that is truly, so that is truly a construction defect, I'll say, an
He
oversight.
just had his repaired a month ago,
Yeah.
and it rained the other day, sideways, and leaked in his living room. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
The repairs that were done, and I saw the weeping holes and I saw the big holes, I'm like, okay, obviously water can get in there, but it's just on regular wood.
Right, which it should never be, right.
They never put the membrane.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
That's what we
All
have.
the way up. So based on the concept,
Karen,
that's a
Karen.
defect.
Every day,
Right.
there's water in the house.
Karen,
Besides the fact that I've been hanging pictures and I haven't found any insulation in the exterior walls.
Yeah, that's a Florida thing to some extent. There's not, I mean, what I'm so shocked at too is it's cement block, and then
Alan?
like, if you ever look how they hang
One by.
the cabinets, they put 1 by, 2 by 1, and they're nail strips. So they nail those into the cement and they nail the cabinets into them. It's just like, I mean, it can't be more than 3/4 of an inch thick, so I'm not sure how
This is
those,
building in the northeast.
Alan?
oh yeah, it's so different. It's
like
shocking.
important, but you know what? Seeing the heat
Alan,
out here, insulation
I
is so important.
Karen,
Without insulation.
Karen.
You're gonna get mold. Then what?
No.
So-
Alan?
That's another, but that's seemingly the standard. Okay, anyway,
Karen,
so
Stephanie,
Karen, you want to
hello?
walk through the,
Just
walk through
Karen.
the options?
I can read option
Aaron,
number 1 is
Aaron,
what we have now. There will be no changes to it, okay? All roof repairs are
Aaron.
coordinated through the HOA office. Insurance claims are coordinated through the insurance company. Roof damage, tree falling on a roof or high wind detaching roof or roof tile is the homeowner's responsibility. Homeowners need to work with their insurance companies and procure roofing companies to fix the damage within the community architectural requirements and process. The cost of any and all repairs shared equally among all 92 villa owners. We need a budget for repairs to be established and included in HOA fees. Villa reserve fund for roof replacement and building painting, annual amount to be determined by the board. All villas, 92, share in roof repairs, roof replacement, painting, termite protection equally, even if it's not on their building unit. Complete replacement estimate for the roof or painting would increase HOA fees in the year plan, or a special assessment for out-of-budget unusual roof repair expenses, as well as for roof replacement and painting shortfalls from the reserve fund balance to be shared equally between the 92 villa owners. HOA must be listed as an interested party on the homeowner insurance policies, and the HOA to monitor for receipt of COI. Okay, and that's what we have now, with no
Karen.
change.
Karen, just
Karen,
pause
can
there
you
for
hear
1
me?
second. Just a couple of things online, and I think it's true. There's a lot to digest in this meeting, so I don't think we're expecting, decisions to be taken, but, I think we will publish this out and people can read through it in more detail. And then, Ashley, I don't know, I saw you unmute, so I don't know if you had any commentary?
No, I just wanted to make sure that,
Ashley, we cannot hear you.
can you hear me now?
We couldn't hear Mary. Marilyn was trying to speak too. We couldn't hear her
Can you,
right now.
can you hear me?
Ashley, I can hear you, but they can't hear you.
Hang on, Ashley, we can't hear, well, no, but we've lost the sound coming in from online. Because everybody's trying to talk, can't hear. Stop sharing? Yeah, that's fine. Pause for a second.
Hello, can you hear? Can you hear now?
Nope, still not. Marilyn's trying to talk and.
Can you hear me, Alan?
I don't think they can.
Okay. Maybe I should type in the chat to Neil. I just want to make sure that they don't need to discuss insurance, because insurance is off the table, right? Insurance is handled a specific way and there's no product available. So I think they're spinning their wheels, and everybody's time here is valuable. And the owners, the subcommittee really wants feedback from the owners on how they want to handle the repairs. That's what I was going to try and kind of explain the difference. Because the association has options that a single person might not in terms of replacement funding.
Alan, you're on mute.
Yep.
Can you hear me, Alan?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear us now?
Alan, is Stephanie muted? Because it might be main through Stephanie as the host.
I am not muted. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to mention, good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Lupo. I'm the association's general counsel, and I was asked to listen in because I'm going to be helping draft the amendment based upon the Villa subcommittee's recommendations, which ultimately are going to come from your discussions with the subcommittee. And I just want to just clarify two specific things. One is insurance is a non-issue here because there's no product available for the association to obtain insurance. You all need to make sure you have insurance. You're not a condo. Make sure your agent knows that. But there's no reason to spend your valuable time today talking about insurance because we can't change the way the amendment works for insurance. The association's not able to obtain insurance for the roofs. So as long as you understand that's your responsibility, your agent knows it's not a condo, and we're an additional insured from the association standpoint, we're all on the same page on insurance. What the subcommittee really needs to know, and going through those options, is how you want to handle the repairs and the replacements. Do you want it handled by the association, or do you want to handle it individually? And the dynamics that come with that because of the shared roof concept, right? The reserves, the funding burden being on an individual owner, and the lack of the ability of the association to finance maybe a major repair through a loan, for example, where you would individually have to go out and get it if you weren't able to fund it. So I just wanted to bring it back, and I was concerned because it seemed like there was some disconnect on the insurance part of it, and I just don't want anyone to think that those discussions will bear any fruit because it's not possible. We really need to know is the owner's opinions on the repairs that Karen and all of these volunteers have spent a lot of time putting together for review.
Thank you. Well said.
Hi, I'm sorry. This is Maria Matos. I just have a quick question. So if we decide not to have any changes to the amendment, and as bullet number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So bullet number 7 says that the HOA fees will increase. Do you have an idea of how much of an increase it will be for 2024?
Where's it at?
We don't because we haven't started the budget process.
So when this is going to be very difficult for some people to make that decision until we know how much that increase will be for 2024. So when will we know when you start that process?
Well, we'll have to establish a budget for repairs, and we will also have to review the contributions that have been, that need to go into the Villa Reserve Fund, because the Villa Reserve Fund, there's an engineering study that supports the timeline for painting and roof repairs. There is no contemplation within that engineering study for roof repairs. Hence, we're in this issue about using the Villa Reserve Fund for the curb repairs that we just finished. So there would have to be some kind of budget established, an estimate on what the roof repairs for 2024 would be, and that would translate straight into your HOA fees. And then the other piece is to look at what the reserve fund needs to be on a go forward basis. And I'll give you a bit of context on that. We charge $54 a month currently for the Villa Reserve Fund. That will effectively be, I'll call it, wiped out through these repairs and not back to a break-even point until approximately, I'll say, December. So we're effectively starting fresh for 2024 with the Villa Reserve Fund. The engineering study for painting and roof repairs currently recommends $160 per month, which I believe last year's Finance Committee and the Villa Subcommittee felt was a little bit hard to digest, so they came up with the $54, and it'll have to be reviewed again going forward.
Yeah, this is going to be a very difficult decision, especially, let's say if you're on a fixed income, somebody that has retired, and we have to budget throughout the year. So we need to know in advance what option is best for us.
So let's go through the options, and you will have, I mean, that's a very good question and a very real concern for sure by everybody. So anyways, Karen, why don't you carry on with the discussion and
Okay, so option number 2 would be to remove roof repairs with a reserve fund with a cap, okay? So change amendment 5, where individual villa owners are responsible for the cost of their own roof repairs. A repair fund reserve will be established. The cost of the roof replacement, painting, and termite protection remains the same, shared between the 92 villa owners. HOA property manager assists with the administration of the roof repairs. A repair fund is established to ensure the timely payment of repairs, pending assessments or reimbursement of roof repair costs from individual villa homeowners. All roof maintenance repair work is coordinated through the HOA office, and insurance claims are coordinated through the insurance company. Roof damage, again, tree falling on the roof, high wind, detaching roof or roof tiles, is the homeowner's responsibility. Work with your insurance company to fix the damages. The cost of any and all roof repairs is assessed to the individual owner or the villa affected. So establish a budget for the villas for roof repairs and expenses for the roof repair reserve fund. A repair fund reserve would be established as part of the Villa Reserve Fund, increasing HOA fees or assessed as a one-time contribution. Repair fund reserve would be capped and is only to provide the HOA funds necessary to make repairs. Villas affected will be individually assessed in order to reimburse the repair fund reserve in the event of a repair, be it casualty damage not covered by insurance or normal wear and tear. The Villa Reserve Fund for roof replacement and building painting will remain in place with reserve fund assessments determined annually by the Board of Directors. A special assessment for out of budget, unusual expenses, roof replacement and painting shortfalls from the reserve fund balance will be shared equally between the 92 villa owners, even not on their building unit. And again, the HOA must be listed as an interested party on the villa homeowner insurance policies. So again, that's to remove repairs with a cap reserve fund. That's option 2. Okay, option 3 is to remove roof repairs altogether. Changing them to remove the repairs. HOA is not responsible for managing or administering any roof repairs. The HOA keeps the responsibility for roof replacement, villas painting, and termite bonding. All roof repairs, work, and costs are the responsibility of each villa homeowner, be it casualty damage or wear and tear. Homeowner needs to work within the community architectural requirements and processes for repairs. HOA fees are not increased as there is no budget for roof repairs. Villa Reserve Fund remains in place for the roof replacement and painting, and termite bond is part of the annual budget. Villa Reserve Fund for roof replacement and building painting will remain in place with reserve fund assessments determined annually by the Board of Directors. A special assessment for out-of-pocket, unusual expenses, roof replacement, and painting shortfalls from the reserve fund balance will be shared equally between 92 villa owners. And again, the HOA must be listed as an interested party on the homeowner insurance policies. Okay. And the last option.
Ashley, if I could ask a question, which was something that had been asked before by some of us earlier today. If we remove the roof repairs and everyone is on their own, that would impact the 558 in the sense that we wouldn't be able to add the additional repairs to the 558, I believe. If you don't know the answer, I'm happy to just get a follow-up, but I just thought I'd post that question.
Thank you, Marilyn. Would the attorney be able to answer that?
Well, rather than put Ashley on the spot, why don't I ask the defect construction attorney who will be running this? I think that would be a better option. They will have experience of that.
Nice, nice.
I ask the construction defect attorney what their view is on that, whether it does affect, because we've already submitted the 558.
All right.
Maybe that it's already in place, any changes going forward might not affect that, but I can ask that question.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, hold on. At the end, we want to know your input, what you think. So hold that thought, please.
Karen, can I ask you just to send me an email to remind me to do that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Email. Perfect, will do. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, now the last option number 4, is to remove all roof repair, roof painting costs. Okay. To all requirements for roof repairs, roof replacement, and painting. Termite bonding will remain in the place. All roof maintenance and repairs, roof replacement, painting will be the responsibility of each villa owner. All roof repair work and costs are the responsibility of each villa homeowner, be it casualty damage or wear and tear, roof replacement or villa painting. Homeowners need to work within the community architectural requirements and processes. All expenses are paid by the owners as incurred. There will be no reserve fund, no insurance follow-up by the HOA, no HOA board involvement with roofing issues, repair or replacement or painting. The ARC approval will be needed for any and all work done on the exterior of the villas for roof repair and replacement, painting, etc. No need to include the HOA as an interested party in the insurance policy. Consider a villa committee to oversee administration, coordination of major projects, and manage individual collection for major expense reimbursements.
Well, would that be the same question that would apply as to number 3?
Yeah.
Whether or not that's going to affect.
So the 558.
Oh, that's a good, I'll put it down.
3 and 4 could impact.
Absolutely.
So I'll find out. So.
To Neil, a 558 include. Okay,
And that's really letting Lennar off the hook. So to speak.
If it, yeah, I mean,
Guys, it's gonna be individually. You have to go individually to Lennar
Right.
and
Right.
get that type.
or the attorney might say, because we've already filed and it's included that, any subsequent changes doesn't matter. So I think we need the answer before, we'll get that quickly.
Okay, I'll see you get that email. Okay, operating procedures to be doing what the option is select, okay, so these are what kind of pending questions based on the four options. So operating procedures will need to be developed for whatever option is selected. And we need to define trigger events for roof replacement and painting. The engineer recommended roof replacement. What if residents can't get insurance on the roof because it's too old? How often should painting occur? Need to determine how much the repair fund reserve should be established, administered. How do you establish dispute resolution procedures? What if a damaged roof in one villa causes damage to another, or the repair is neglected or poorly done? What if a resident doesn't want to pay his or her share for expenses for adjacent areas? What if the villa homeowners who do not want to pay or share expenses, in example 3 or 4, they want to paint their building? With option 4, which is you get rid of everything, the whole amendment, you would need to develop procedures for residents and how things will be managed or administered, as there is no involvement of the HOA, including collection of funds for expenses, no reserve fund. Is having no reserve fund a fiduciary responsibility? How would procedures be enforced? Residents to determine when expenses are incurred with regular oversight by HOA through violations. If a villa owner doesn't have the money to repair or replace the roof or paint when needed, how can that process work? Yeah. So those are the options.
So what we basically want to know from you is what are your thoughts on these four options that we have right now? And please come to our next meeting if you want to, or you can submit some email to Karen or Kathy or myself and ask your questions. And we try to figure out a best way to go forward. We want just to move forward and start fixing this problem that Leonard said to us. And we basically
Karen?
don't have a solution right now. It's just guessing work, right, in some way.
Karen?
Yes.
Just one other comment with respect to option 2. I think we might have not, maybe didn't make it clear or not on that particular option. We'll add some commentary. Is the owner pays for any casualty loss not covered by the insurance proceeds. So I think that's important, that if it's a casualty event, a casualty loss, if there's something that is not covered with respect to the roof repairs that's not covered by insurance, that the individual homeowners would have to look after that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add some wording to option 2.
So basically, just to round up a little bit this, what we found out is there are basically 3 damage to the roof that's possible. One is the construction defect or manufacturer defect on anything that's put on the roof. That's gonna be right now going to the HOA, to the 558, to an R. That's one. The second one would be wear and tear. Basically, in 6 years' time, your roof gapes up, your mantle just dry out or whatever. You start having a leak. We have to replace it. You have to replace that mantle. If it's a small section in your roof, the option would be right now is everyone pays for that replacement. If we do the second option is you pay for that replacement through the HOA managed contract, okay? And the third option or the third problem is replacement. That's 25 years in time or 26 years in time. It depends on that regard. And the other option that we have a problem is the casualty damage, that's what the lawyers are calling it, is when you have this kind of events, like a hurricane, let's say a hail comes through and busted a couple of tiles, and then you have a leak in your roof. That goes through insurance. Those are basically the three options that an event can occur on your roofs. And we're trying to deal with each one and find a way to manage everything in the same process.
So Dave, you had given your opinion. So now I'm kind of opening it up to everybody's opinion. You know, what do you guys think?
For what you even put out there for people to vote on, I think like number 4 doesn't go with the spirit of either a
Agreed.
condominium or a homeowners association.
It's just there because it's an option.
I've got a lot of houses, but I like it here because my neighbors is going to be the same color as mine. It's going to have the same roof. I have a cousin, we have a family, we have a farm, he's got 10 tractors. And, you know, I love them, but it's like, you don't need 10 tractors. I don't have to worry about that here. So I think that, in my opinion, and maybe ask the attorney, that shouldn't even be one to be allowed to be voted on, because that doesn't show the spirit of a home.
Agree.
And just let me make one comment on that, and Ashley can correct me if I'm
Can you
wrong, but-
summarize what he said,
Oh, yes.
please? 'Cause
So
it's hard to hear.
basically, the comment was that it's not necessarily in the keeping with a HOA in the spirit of a managed community where everything is looking good, looking fresh, same appearance, same paint, same roof tiles, et cetera. And my only comment is that there are provisions through the Architectural Review Committee and procedures the board can take, that if you paint your villa or anybody paints their house pink or something, we can go out and find them, we can repaint it and then charge them the cost. So there are already protections in the governing documents that would prevent, 10 tractors on somebody's front lawn, or painting the house a different color, or putting a shingle roof on their one section, so there are protections built into the governing documents that can't happen.
I just want to point out something to you, maybe it's relevant or not to the people in here. Every time you increase the homeowners association fees, the money, it decreases the value of the villa. When I moved in here, there was not even one villa for sale. Now, where I live, with this black roof, black
Wolf Run, yep.
roof and Quaker Ridge, there are 2 that have the sign outside, and there are 3 that doesn't have, they have been sold. So we have 5 now that have been sold. I don't know about the other side of the villas, because it's another section.
Mhm.
I don't know whether there's any, how you check. Right now, it's 5.
Yeah, and we'd have to look at that in conjunction with the entire community, but I think we've sold 31 to date.
31 today.
So it's roughly 5.
And that's not villas, that's in.
That's everything, yeah.
137 homes.
Right.
31 resale.
So there is a fair amount of just natural churn because people are moving in, moving out for whatever reasons. But your point is,
And the price goes from 319 to 288.
oh yeah, and then that's market driven, everything's factored into that, whether it's HOA and a bunch of things.
What's your bill going to be worth if somebody wants to buy it and you're telling them, hey, you're going to replace the roof? What if you're 20 years from now and you go to sell your villa? It's not going to be worth half, because the buyer's going to have to immediately within 5 years replace the roof.
Maybe, maybe not, I don't know.
No, it's gonna be, they're gonna say, look, I have to replace the roof, I'm gonna have to breathe the price down.
And some of that will depend on market conditions, right? Because
Right.
again, if it's a seller's market and it's a hot
Right.
area,
Thank you.
your roof could be, people will pay for literally houses where water's pouring in, just because it's such a hot market and they just want something and they'll pay to repair it. If it's a buyer's market, you're right. It's going to be, I want 40,000 to replace the roof, or I want you to replace the roof before we close. So there's always going to be market conditions, but I think the point is, if there's a reserve fund and you could say, hey, I'm selling this villa, but there's already 20 grand set aside for the roof replacement, that should entice a buyer to be like, okay, I don't have to shell it out all myself. There's already something built up for that.
You're not selling it. Yeah. I mean, crazy things have happened in pandemic driven.
Yeah, yep.
I'm familiar with conditions. I'm not a licensed appraiser. But, I mean, I don't think we're going to see this kind of craziness again, in my lifetime, I could be wrong, but I think having a reserve.
Makes sense, makes sense, yeah.
Can you summarize what's being said, because you can't hear online, please?
Sure. So basically, the commentary is it makes sense to have a reserve fund for things like painting and roof replacements. So this gentleman would take option 4 off the table of getting rid of everything from the association management perspective. So they're leaning more towards either option 1, 2, 3. Other commentary, feedback?
Lydia, do you have an opinion?
I don't know, I'm the process all of it.
Okay. How about you, Gloria? No, of course,
No,
I'm
I'm
curious.
not the process information too, but I agree with him that what you said about option number 4. But he gave some, clear answers too. But definitely the reserves need to be built up, because that's important. Definitely. And I think it's important that we want to know, obviously, maybe not right now, but at a certain point, what are we going to do to replace what has been used to cover those right now?
Right.
To make sure that the community looks good and that everything's taken care of, but, this is just coming up recently.
Anybody else?
I'm not super familiar with the options. Do any of the options provide both a reserve and a replacement?
Yes.
Okay.
Option 1 is basically the same, like as it is right now. It's just the cost of the repair is the problem, basically, or the main issue is the cost of the repair. Basically, right now, if we have to repair a roof, it's divided between every bill right now, okay? The option 2 is basically saying, okay, we have a repair. We have to repair your house. The HOA comes, they repair the house, and they say, look, this is your bill. $5,000, whatever amount, is your responsibility to repay it. Now, the HOA will build a fund or a reserve fund for that event, basically saying the HOA will have, and I said this in discussions, it's like we'll give them $30,000 for the reserve fund. It's going to be around $300 for each bill as just one payment for building that replacement or repair fund. And then when you get assessed, you are replacing the fund. That's the way we're trying to figure it out. Okay? And the third option is basically you pay for your repair and you manage your repair.
And there won't be a repair reserve fund.
Yeah, but we said that that's going to impact the litter, was it? The thing about.
The 558. That's something that we need to figure out after that.
Take that off, I will.
Yeah, and
to remove those, because people who aren't here at the meeting, and they might miss that, which is very important, and they're going, and hey, I'm only here part-time, I'm gonna sell it anyway, so I'm gonna check number 4 or number 3, because I don't want to pay anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would.
You're
right, but ultimately the board has the final decision.
Well,
No.
depending on which option you choose.
Yeah.
If you choose option 3 or 4, then the board then has to put it to a member vote. Option 1 and 2, the board can, option 1, we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Option 2 is just creating a fund for you to pay in to cover the
repairs.
But 3 and 4 changes.
Basically, it's making the process that we have to follow through. It's like you have an event, you have to call the HOA, you have to call the insurance, figure out what you have to do in each event. That's the process, and we need to know what we're dealing with to make that manual of how to do things forward.
So I think that the next important step is that we're going to send this PowerPoint presentation out to everybody again for review so that you have time to read through it on your own,
Karen,
understand it. And then we would like you to email your opinions about it to this email address here, Melissa@gmail.com. I just created this email address for Karen.
Perfect. Thank you.
So
we'll email that out, right? So everybody has that?
Yes, so tomorrow, what I will do is I will send a communication out to all of the villa owners that this is what was discussed. Here's the PowerPoint presentation. Please take time to read it. And then we'll give a deadline on when we would like you to respond to that email address with your thoughts.
And Stephanie, will we structure the email so that it's like, do you prefer this option and here are the, because otherwise I could see we get back a whole bunch of responses that aren't exactly clear, or hybrid option.
Oh, good point, good point.
So somehow we got to figure out, without going out with like SurveyMonkey, like how do we solicit the feedback we need to know if 70% of the villas want option 2 or option 3, or, option 4,
I think there should be.
I think we can work on a template that can go out, and then people can just scan it and send it back into the villa subcommittee. We can work on a template, because we need to know the individual's name, address, and then option 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
I think there should be an option in which everybody can make up the money. The reserve for repairs will be this much. The reserve for replacement will be this much. If you don't want the replacement, forget about it. If you want the repair, forget about it. If you want both together, then this is much. Because right now, mixing repairs with replacement and.
That's what Leonardo left us. That's the problem.
Right.
We just.
We can put a, we try to put a
Question that was asked, can you summarize for me, please?
Repair.
Exactly.
That's the problem. So if you decide to do everything on your own, then you have to fight with your neighbor if he says you're causing damage in my house, or I'm not gonna pay for it, or whatever. That's the problem if you go down the road with the other two options. Go with the first option, where it is,
I understand that.
the HOA takes care of it. You don't have to bicker with the homeowner of your neighbor to find out who's causing the damage. The HOA fixes the
I
damage
understand
for
that.
both of you, and you're done.
I understand that. But
Option 2 is also
option they want to fight.
So 1 and 2 are the same.
One at a time.
Just to let you know, option 1 and 2 is the same. The only difference is gonna be who's gonna pay the bill.
Right.
That's okay. It's just that.
Yeah, option 4 is.
Was there a comment online?
Option 4 should be totally removed.
There
People that are not here and
there
not
is
here.
not.
Okay,
Yes, I would like to add something if possible.
Okay.
sure.
I want to go back to the question where individuals said about the fixed income families, and Marilyn kind of alluded to that the HOA fees will go up. Just to do quick math, if we've already exhausted the $54 per month, we're going to have to add to that. And just a quick addition on that, without the HOAs, golf and all the other memberships, it's going to go up at least $100 to offset these costs. On that sense right there.
You have to remember right now with the 558, basically we are paying for something that Leonard should pay us back.
Correct.
Basically,
Right, but
we are basically founding the insurance company. That's what we're doing right now.
I
Yeah, but there is no guarantee Lennar's gonna give us that money back. And
Okay.
now we
I
have no
agree.
reason for money.
But we still have to supplement that right now, okay? To get back to the engineer's study. So in that sense there, next year alone, the villas will go up $100 to supplement that and go forward. If we go with.
What happened?
We lose them?
We may have lost, but
You may have lost service.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's just going to comment, I think, whatever, when the vote goes out, the board would want to see a good majority of the villa homeowners voting for one of the options, for the board to be comfortable that that is
That's the option.
representing the majority of the homeowners in the village.
Makes
So
sense.
if it's a very split vote, then we'll have to,
We're
how
staying.
the board's going to decide on that. I think we need a vote that's going to have a good majority going with one, an option.
Makes sense.
So please talk to your neighbors. We know that there are a lot of We have villa owners that are not here today. So if you know that your neighbor does not receive our communications, or our emails, like, spread the word. This is important.
Yeah, because we got roughly 15 addresses online that I wrote down, and how many do you have?
Thank you.
So we probably have,
11.
so we got roughly not even a third represented in this meeting, so that's a good, better turnout than we probably had historically, but, we're still roughly at a third of the villa owners are participating either online or here in the meeting.
What percentage do you need to get a vote?
Can I just reiterate what Neil said? Because it needs to go to a community vote, most residents will not know or care perhaps, but certainly doesn't know or understand Amendment 5. So what is critically important is that each of the villa homeowners share their voice and outline exactly what they want, because if it's just a simple majority, that might not make everybody happy. Maybe it needs to be some other number, but I can tell you, if it went out to a vote to the community today and the villa subcommittee said, we want to get rid of Amendment 4, you would probably get that vote passed because people don't understand what the implication is.
Right. I have a question. With option 2, I understand the main difference or the difference of option 1 and option 2 is who's going to pay the bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to be clear that my understanding is that if that villa owner is billed, that villa owner is going to be responsible for paying that money back to the HOA.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so when they pay that money back to the HOA, that should replenish.
Sure.
the reserves.
The reserve, yeah.
The other question is, if they don't pay it back, what will be in to, to make certain that it's done?
I would say that would then go through the collection process with the attorney, as they do if they didn't pay their assessments. So we go through the collection process, we write to them, say that we send a pre-lien letter saying you owe this amount of money. If they didn't pay it within a certain period of time, I think 5 days, we put a lien on their property, which means that they cannot sell their property without settling that debt. So that's the same as if somebody doesn't pay their assessments.
Right.
Perhaps moving forward, no matter which amendment you adopt or which one you put out there, maybe just for clarification purposes, could we maybe use the word reserve? Because just now when she spoke of reserve, I wasn't clear if she spoke on a reserve for replacement or reserve for repair.
We'll draw a distinction between.
Just eliminate that word.
Yep.
A repair fund.
Repair fund and replacement painting fund. Yeah.
Reserve could, like I was, even after you explained to me, I was so confused. Maybe that's me.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It just, I don't know if you can answer my question. Are we have a replacement and a repair?
I agree.
So,
It needs to be separated.
eliminate the confusion by eliminating the word repair in all the word plumbing.
Okay.
Thelma, I wanted to ask you, Thelma's in the insurance, or she does a lot of insurance. She works in insurance. But did you say once that if one homeowner had a leak and it was affecting another homeowner, then the 2 insurance companies, because you're supposed to have insurance, they would figure it out? They would work it out?
If you had, and that would be in any situation, if one homeowner negligence was the reason for another homeowner to have issues or need repair, the first insurance company will pay on behalf of their policyholder because they pay them a premium for it. And in their investigation, if they determine that a third party, the person next to you, caused that leak, something happened and it leaked over into your home, they're gonna come after that third party to recover that money back that they paid out. So it would then be between the insurance companies. Just keep in mind that the burden of proof is gonna rest on the person that's trying to get the money back. They just can't go to them and say, you're at fault, I want this money back. You're gonna have to have supportive documentation to confirm and to support that that third party is responsible. My last question with that option too, because that's really where I'm leaning, to make people accountable, you know. When that money goes back into the reserve, shouldn't the fact that it's going back into the reserve help to keep the cost of the fund? Going back into the funds should help keep the costs from going up
Yeah,
every
it
year.
should be.
It
Because
is the purpose of the repair fund. Repair fund for you to do a one-time payment for each of the 92 homes, to do a one-time payment to build up a fund, so that when there is a repair required, the HOA can go ahead and get it done, and then get the homeowner to pay that back.
Correct.
So it should be a one-off, which is the way I'm reading it, a one-time payment,
Yeah.
and then that's done for that repair amount. Obviously, there's still the reserve fund for the roof replacement and the painting.
But keep in mind that this is the last thing I want to go out there. I think it's pretty easy for us to sit here and say, you know, I want this person to be responsible. But one day it may be you. You think about it.
That's why you have insurance.
You think
Yeah,
about
but
that.
the problem is that-
Being divided, you know, you don't
That's
know,
like an insurance policy.
right, you know where you are today, but you don't know what your finances may be next month or the next year. So that's just another point that I want to just kind of throw out there. By going with option 2, the villa owner is accountable. They're expected to put that money back, but it may not be them the next time. It may be you, and at some point, you may need the assistance of the other 92
That's
to
true.
get to over the hump.
That's
to get to the point where you can pay it back.
Like the example he was in the, who would want to be on the hook maybe for $9,200 when you could pay $100?
Absolutely.
That's true.
Karen, it's hard to hear what they're saying, so you'll need to repeat what the comment was.
Oh, God. So Marilyn, it's basically math, right? Because people are realizing that right now, it's almost akin to a insurance or certainly a cost sharing. You know, if you have to pay $9,200 individually, that's a lot, sounds a lot worse than you have to just pay $100, right? Even if it's not your roof, you're paying $100, but when it is your roof, you're only paying $100. You know, so it's, and again, if you talk to people in the community, I mean, mine costs a little over $1,000, and it was literally just a vent that leaked. Marilyn, I think yours was 3,000 or in that ballpark. So, you know,
About
we've
that,
all
yeah.
incurred, many of us have incurred these kind of roof things. You know, so $100, but this year it's probably 50. I think we're up to 60, and there's a new one that just came up. So, you know, one year it might be 0, another year it might be 60, like this year.
Right.
But again, you divide that by 92 and you're at 600, roughly. Right. So again, if you believe your roof is perfect and there's no issues and you're not going to have a leak for 30 years, you would not pick option 1 or 2, right? You'd be like, I'm not paying for anybody else's roof but mine. But if you think you're going to fall into that I need, you know, to share it at some point,
They could.
Just for throwing this out there, you know, we're 92 villas. We have, like, I believe 14 or 15 already repair roofs. That's more than 10%. A lot more. That's 15% around there. Yeah. So
the membrane is missing. It's not just missing in one section. It's probably missing.
Easier to budget 100 extra bucks than it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe
Yeah.
based on comments, the board could review necessary and eliminate some options based on comments.
yeah, absolutely. We can. That's what we want with this. You know,
Right.
try to figure out a way to go forward. We are leaning more towards option 2, but we want to add something that we haven't thought about because that's our thought process. You know, Thelma, Williams, Karen Katz, and mine. If we have some feedback from you and we think it's pertinent for this discussion or these options that we have, we like to put it through and bring it forward. That's what we want to do with this. Just bring you to this discussion. As of right now, you've been outside of this discussion. You're just finding this, that you have the Fifth Amendment sometimes, and that you have to pay for this. We have to pay for the repairs. The HOA have to pay, and we are going to be assessed on this. Our HOA are going up, and all this stuff. So we want to go forward. What are your opinions? What do you want to add? What do you want to remove? What can we modify to make it as best as we can for everyone?
Can we confirm the timeline on this? I think we've got to, if we have to go out to change the declaration, change the amendment, that has to go out to our members, so we have to do a mailing out to all the members. That costs the association about $5,000 every time we have to do that. Now, in October, hopefully October, maybe November, we can budget anything through, so that will go out. So we'd like to, if there is going to be a change to the amendment, send it out at that time.
At that time, okay.
So that would be the ideal time for us to send it out. If you choose option 3 or 4.
Again, it's option 3 or 4, 1 or 2 do not require that.
Not a problem. If it's
I'm
3
sorry,
or
I'm
4,
just understanding what is being said.
I missed the date, I'm so sorry.
Hang on, so what was said in the room was that if it was option 3 or 4, that was the preferred approach, that actually requires a change to the legal governing documents, which would require a member vote and a 14-day notice, a mailing. And we try to only do like 2 mailings a year because you have to do physical mailings with post. And sometimes those are overseas, et cetera. So that runs, a fair amount of money. So we don't want to do any special mailing. So we would have to target the budget mailing, which is October, November timeframe. So if the majority of the villa owners said, yes, we love option 4, we want to get rid of everything, that would require a mailing and a member vote. So we'd want to target having that decision made well in advance. So probably in like September timeframe.
So I think we need to target the last bullet, ready for mailing by October the 1st, and then go back from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again,
Can I
that's just
talk?
Yes.
Great. My hand's been up for like the last half hour, but nobody's like acknowledging me. I do it on the Zoom, everything else. Sorry, but I'm kind of forgetting everything that I've wanted to say all this time. This has been going on for the last 6 to 9 months. It's not nothing new that's been going on. We've been going through this over and over and over again. One suggestion, and I don't know if it's even an applicable suggestion, is instead of dividing everything by 92 villas, is it possible to divide it by buildings? So the cost would not be so expensive.
We thought about that.
We thought about that, and it's going to be more complicated.
Right.
Basically, you have buildings that are 4 units, there are buildings that are 6 units, so we have to make that document is going to be like, okay, if you are in lots number 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're going to build this 4 units or this 4 lots. If you are in building number 2 and this has built lot number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you have to divide in 5. So it's going to be more complicated in that regard. So
okay, it was just a suggestion. I don't know if it would make anything.
It's a problem. It's basically a problem.
It was just a suggestion. I wasn't sure if it would make anything better as far as cost wise to a lot of people. My second thing is, as far as Lennar goes, I think we just should take them off the table. If we get the money from them, great. We could stick it in the funds, and if we don't, we're prepared. So I think that's just something that we need to put aside and may or may not happen. But another concern I had is there something that's broken down what the cost of painting is? Because I know with the inside units, it's a swipe of 10 swipes of the paintbrush is about all it's going to take to paint a villa. I know the outside units have more roof, more wall and all that, but
the
some
painting
kind of
cost
breakdown as far as
assumptions
how much
are in the reserve study, Donna.
I'm sorry?
There's a reserve study for the villas, and in there it outlines what the estimated cost for painting and roof repair are.
And I think it's based on square footage.
And somebody had said that that was high and they were going to check on it, but
Well,
nothing
we'd
was
still
ever
go out for
done.
quotes at the time. We would still go out for quotes as and when the work was required.
Okay, so that's probably needs to be looked at because it looked awful high for what little painting. Anyway, so if something
And
happens if something happens where number 4 passes and people want that option, I mean, is that going to make will that make the HOA go down? I mean, if there's no more, none of that stuff is included anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it would eliminate the $54, basically.
it would go back to what it was pretty much besides inflation or the increases for other like non-villa specific stuff, it would go down because you're only going to pay for the, I think the termites, which is already in the budget. So there's no reserve fund of the $54 a month or whatever that number changes to in the future.
So, and then that would be, okay. All right, those were my questions that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Is number option 4 going to be removed? Well, in 3 and 4, what's going to happen? Because
Why were they put out there? Did somebody say, I don't want to pay anything?
Again, that's gonna be like the board
What's-
that
what's-
they have to
can you
send
repeat
out.
the
and
question,
say, we
please?
want to remove it.
The question is why were option 3 and 4 even floated? And should they be taken out of the, communication that goes out as to which option villa owners would prefer?
there's going to be people that are going to say, Millie.
Yeah, the ones that don't live here, that are.
Okay, yeah, how many people rent here?
How many people rent?
Yeah,
I don't know.
people rent.
In the villas, I don't
In the villas, I don't know.
Stephanie, do you have an estimate?
I in the whole community?
No.
I don't know.
So we can get that.
347. Yeah, but just in the villas.
No, just the villas.
Just the 92.
Villas is only 92.
No, how many are renters?
How many are renting? They don't own.
I think there are 2 behind me. Those are 2.
Can I offer a comment? I think you need all of the options in, only so that people know you've thought of everything, and that does give them the option. I mean, people that don't live there, whether it's considered an investment or their winter home, they still have an interest, I would expect, to preserve their investment.
Yeah.
May I say something? This is Robin.
Yes, go ahead, Robin.
Okay, I typed in, but I might as well say it. We also have to look at how much do we want the HOA involved in this? When you have when you need a roof repair, don't you want to just call your insurance company to have it come out and fix it? And not have to wait like they did for months for the other leak?
What if your insurance doesn't cover it and you're on your own, Robin? Just as a devil's advocate question.
What if your neighbors is then leaking?
Then you wait for it, but at least it gets done right away and not have to wait to call the insurance, call the HOA, and then, so, I mean, we've been discussing this for years.
Can I add on to that, Robin?
Sure.
This is what makes me wonder about, I know HOA is busy, they got a lot on their plate and all this other stuff, but I have brought it up before the new company came on a year ago, whenever it was, and to the old company, but there's been a crack on the side of the building on Quaker Ridge that has not been painted, and I know it's going on 3 years, and I brought it to their attention numerous times. Had they fixed that crack, and listen me out, please. If they had they painted that crack on the side of the building when they painted it white or whatever they did to it, if they would have painted it the yellow on top of that, then it probably had a good chance of being the same color. Now, 3 years later, I'm sure it's probably faded, and I don't know if it's HOA that's put it off or who's put it off, but now what's going to happen is the villa owner is going to get charged for painting this building because it's taken 3 years for them to paint it, and they still to this day have not done that. That crack is still on the side of the building, and now we're responsible and have to pay for that because they didn't do it in time and it's all faded.
Oh, well, number two.
That was my question about the process.
Right.
You know, I like number two, but my question is, if we go with number two, the process to get things done, because I think that was a big concern for villa owners, you know, and I heard that this is new, we've never done this before, we're just trying to work through the process. So once we choose an option, I'm just saying there need to be some specific processes in place.
Yeah.
We have to develop the manual. We have to develop the manual,
Right.
how we're going to proceed with every process that we have. Basically, something simple. I just want to say it's going to be something for like a flight checklist. You know, you have a problem with your roof. When you have a problem with your roof, is a casualty event, call your insurance. It's a wear and tear, call the HOA. You know, something like that.
And we plan on doing that even if we stick with what is currently.
Yeah, we have to do that.
We know that there is confusion about.
Whatever option we choose and move forward with, we have to develop this checklist. You know, we have to check. You have a problem with your roof. It's basically saying that the same thing, and I'm sure everyone has seen the manual from all your electronic devices. Checklist when you're like having a problem. Is the thing plugged in? That's the first thing they ask you. Like, and you're like, who can go and say it's not turning on and not checking if it's plugged in? People do it.
We have a problem with our roof, and every time it rains, we get water in, and it's not a little bit, it's big puddles.
Wow.
And the process, how long is this process?
I understand.
It's been over 23 days now. We've been here waiting and waiting.
I don't know that.
We're coming to the meeting.
Well, I just sent her the stuff today, but I wait.
No, I understand. I understand the frustration that we have right now, but again, we don't have a manual for going forward with this.
Who's gonna come to do this now? We need somebody.
Now it's
Yeah.
I already spoke to the roofer, they're gonna be out like this week.
Okay.
So when did you
So
turn
maybe
it,
your documents
Or we'll take
today.
a look at it.
just turned it in yesterday?
Because they called their insurance and went that route. And the insurance basically said it's.
that's the problem that we have. I understand that it's frustrating for everyone.
Yeah.
It's a problem for us, and I haven't had any leak yet. So I understand all that, and this is what we're trying to figure out,
Right.
what we're going to do, and then.
Right.
It's starting to ruin the inside.
Yeah, I know.
It's the windows ruined.
Your insurance should cover your inside.
Yeah. It starts on the roof, because we got a bump on the ceiling.
Yeah.
But now it's coming down into.
I understand, and again, it's.
I mean, that's
I
the problem,
understand.
that according to the current documents, there is a process, and you sent me the documents today from your insurance company, and I called our roofer today. They are coming this week. I promise. Trust me, like, I know.
That's what we're trying to prevent in the future when we reach this kind of
Can't get anybody.
again, we need to go and get to that place. Right now, we are like flying blind. We're just like jump in the car and put the drive through and you said, look, did I turn on the engine on? Does it have oil? Does it have gas? We don't know it. We are right in that moment in time. You know, we need to figure out, okay, we're going to travel to Atlanta. Okay, we're going to stop here. We're going to put gas here. We're going to check the tires here. Before we go, we're going to drink water. We're going to go to the restroom. That's all the things that have to happen. But right now, we're working with what we have, and we have nothing. Basically, once we have the decision that we're going with option 1, 2, or 3, we're going to say, look, this is the checklist that we're going to work with. If you have a problem, call the HOA or notify the HOA, call your insurance company. If this is the kind of problem that we have, the company, we're going to say, look, we're going to have the roofers on retainers, and they're going to say, look, we have a roof with a problem. At least come and put a tarp on it.
Right.
Karen, I think we need to sort of close it down and I mean, if people have specific questions, we can look in the rearview mirror all we want.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
you know, if you want to look after your own stuff, that's great. Just remember that, you know, the insurance doesn't cover wear and tear, and, you know, people need to be, you know, you can blame the HOA all you want, and it's unfortunate, but we did not inherit any procedures. And so we're, you know, working through that, and there's no sense coming up with procedures if the options laid out or the current process isn't what people want. So I think I would commend the subcommittee for doing the hard work on coming up with the options. I think it's important that everybody voice what they want to see happen in the future, and we'll carry it forward. And those that are on the call or interested in helping out with developing the procedures, I'm sure you can line up outside Karen's door. She'd be more than welcome to have people help her out.
Absolutely. Karen's door, that's it.
Can I just make a comment? If we just.
I'd like to echo what Marlon said and thank the fellow subcommittee for all the work you've done.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Karen, there's one more comment. There's one more comment online. Someone's trying to speak.
Yes, this is Marcos. So if we decide to keep, not to make any changes to the amendment as a community, of course, and the HOA fee will go up, are there any guarantees that if we have any issues, the HOA will not take 3 months to reply to any questions? Because it happened with me. I had a problem with my roof and I had to call them, and I mean, I was nagging them. I was going to the office, which I think is very unfair because we are paying a very high HOA, so I shouldn't have to be chasing anybody to get a response. So if we do decide to keep what we have in place and the HOA will go up, can the HOA give us a time frame as to when we will have an answer to whatever questions we may have?
I mean, as the community manager, I can tell you, I mean, I'm not sure if you dealt with previous management before I was here, but I am very responsive. So, I mean, I give you my word as a community manager that I do anything that I can to expedite this process because, I mean, whether you believe it or not, this whole Villa Roof situation, every time it rains, like I lose sleep because I think of you guys. I mean, truly, I really care. And, you know, so I mean, I can give you my word as a community manager that I will do everything I can to expedite the process. I'm extremely responsive through email. And I always take a phone call, so.
Yeah. I think what we can do is we can establish escalation procedures.
Yeah.
You know, how, you know, if you don't get a response within certain, you know, send it to.
And the thing is that right now, everyone is guessing what's the next process or what's the next step in this process. Because right now you're sending something to the management company and they're trying to figure out what and how to do the things right now. Once we get the procedure done and we have the checklist of what we have to do, they'll run it through. You come with a problem with your roof, they'll know what to do exactly and how to call or who to call. If they have to call the insurance, if you have to call the insurance, you have more immediate response once we have built this and make this process clean. That's the thing. And no matter, and I'm guessing, and I'm hoping for that, having this company for a long time, but if we change the company for whatever reason, they'll have the manual for doing it from the start.
And I think from my perspective, and just listening to the couple in the room who have a leak for, you know, a couple of weeks now or 3 weeks, I think we have the front end stem the issue. So like the first call, like again, there's the fort where you go to your insurance because obviously there's interior damage. But we've got to get to the roofer to be like tarp it or tar it or, you know, so we got to not wait for insurance. We got to literally go and take some action, but there's a cost to that, right? That has to be, you know, again, potentially shared or individual, but that's got to be the first step is stop the water from getting in and then wait for the process to, so as we look at these procedures, we have to be like, first one, call happens, immediately get the roofer out there to go in your attic, figure out where it's coming from. Is it a vent? Is it a hole? Is it a missing flashing? And do something to stem that initial issue and then work through the rest of the process. And then ultimately it'll come out to be repair the tiles, put flashing in, put a membrane down that doesn't exist, whatever the case may be. I think that's.
I'm surprised that your insurance didn't put a tarp on your roof.
The problem, the insurance, yeah, the problem.
Your insurance should have put your tarp on the roof. They did to
Right,
prevent.
so it took, what, 2 weeks for the insurance? So.
I think we need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Certainly,
Marilyn, I really want to thank you for all your hard efforts and work to do this presentation. And Alan too. Thank you both. It's going to happen without both of you. And thank you all for coming. And please, give us your opinion. What options you want, please send us that email.
And I want to give a hard for
My pleasure.
She is on the job.
Karen, next meeting is gonna be the 25th.
We'll talk. Thank you all.
thanks, everyone.
Do we want to have another meeting? No, it's the Villa meeting in July or no meeting for the summer.
We are ready to play each other. Grudge match. You hate my car? You throw your car?
Yeah.